up, guys? Trying to get this thing set up. It's supposed to be horizontal. Let's see here. All right, hang on 1 second, guys. I've got to skip the ad on my own live stream. All right, so I set it up for horizontal, and it doesn't want to do horizontal, so I don't know. We're just going to roll with it. Let me get this angled up a little bit better. I'm in my awesome-ass PJs. Hope everybody's doing all right tonight. Real quick, someone in the chat, let me know that you can hear me okay. Make sure my mic's working. We're going to give it a few minutes, let some people come in here. Let's see here. Cool, cool. All right. So, like I said, we're going to give it a few minutes to let some people show up into the live stream. That way, everybody who bought tickets has a chance to jump in here. Matt from Jackal Motorsports is in the live chat, so everybody say hi to Matt. Thank you to Jackal for putting this on, raising money for a very, very good cause. Let's see here. All right, Ping, you're picking up a 2012 A6 Prestige tomorrow. Congrats, dude. Hopefully this channel is of use to you, man. All right, let's see here. Hank here, he just bought a 2012 C7. Already watched like 10 of my videos. Awesome. Man, everybody's buying 2012 A6s. Did they just go on sale or something? Music is universal. He's got one too. Nice. Cool, guys. Well, everybody, welcome to the live stream. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna run this for a few minutes, make sure we get everybody in here. So while we're doing this, feel free to ask some questions. I need to bring up my Facebook page because we're gonna do this by order number, but I don't know the names of people. So once we do get the order number chosen, Matt is gonna have to tell me who is who. So I gotta bring up the chat for him. Man, it's about time for me to get a new computer. This thing is old. Come on, computer. All right, cool. All right, so let's see here. 112. Welcome, welcome. Everybody ready for Thanksgiving? If everybody's traveling, please be safe. It's the craziest time of year to do travel, right? The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, busiest travel day of the year, especially my job. For those of you that don't know, I'm an air traffic controller, and Wednesday is usually a crazy day. So luckily, though, I've got it off. I don't have to work this year. Perks of being senior. All right, so Ping asks, are supercharger intercooler cores a maintenance item? Should they theoretically ever need to be completely changed? Absolutely. So Ping, your intercooler cores, I wouldn't say that you need to change them before there's signs of failure, but they're 100% maintenance items. It's what I suggest is when you see the OE supplied ones, which is a company called Mahle, M-A-H-L-E, FCP Euro sells them, USP Motorsports sells them. When they have them in stock, grab a pair just to keep in your garage with all the associated gaskets and O-rings and whatnot that you need, because when they do go, you're gonna want them. So basically the way they fail over time, no one really knows why they fail 100%, but from all the research we've done, we're fairly certain that the constant heat cycles when you're really pushing your car, so you know it's nice and cool, you do a quarter-mile run, the fluid gets really hot, and then it cools back off again. That constant heat cycle, the more you do that in an aggressive way, the more it weakens the aluminum in the intercooler core. And then what happens is it basically, something inside of it breaks and it starts to leak coolant or fluid into your combustion chamber. Now, typically this just results in a misfire, usually in cylinders 3 and 6, but it can fail even worse. And the worst case scenario is that it, hold on a second. Remind me tomorrow, computer. So the worst thing is that it leaks, you don't know it's leaking, and it's leaking bad, and you park your car overnight, and when you go to start it the next morning, it has filled all of your combustion chambers up, or at least one of them up with fluid, and you could potentially hydrolock your engine. So if you're over 100,000 miles, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and do it. But unless you're, if you're not seeing any signs of it and everything seems to be working out with your IATs, I wouldn't stress about it. Hold on, my computer is being ridiculous here, trying to get me to like restart it. Of course, it wants to restart it right now. All right, let's see here. Are there downpipes that are legal for your C7? So, so E asked if there are any downpipes, and so what I'm guessing he means by downpipes are test pipes, or what we would call, yeah, test pipes. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure my computer doesn't restart in the middle of this. Hold on. Schedule the restart. Sorry, y'all. All right, but if you delete your cats, the EPA doesn't like it no matter what. That's not, that's not kosher. It's for off-road use only. So that's always what it is. You can get aftermarket test pipes. They wouldn't technically be test pipes, but you can get aftermarket test pipes that have catalytic converters on them that are a little bit more robust. I haven't heard of any of the Garage Autosport catted pipes failing. But me personally, if you want catalytic converters, I would put them further downstream. That's just me. Put them on what I call the mid pipes, or we call down pipes, and that's what connects to your catalytic converters, your test pipes, and then connects to the rest of your exhaust. Put them somewhere downstream. They avoid the heat there. You can even get O2 sensor extenders to make it all legit there. All right. Yeah, engine mounts are good. Definitely get engine mounts if you need them. Gene Brutus says, what's the likelihood that you need to change your intercooler core when you get a ported blower? Some people claim they are too fragile and should be changed and not swapped over. For me personally, if they're not leaking, if there's no signs of failure, I'll swap them over. Now, granted, if they've been in there a long time and you're putting a ported supercharger on there, while it's all taken apart, it's a good idea just to go ahead, because it's already taken apart anyways. It's a really good idea and a really good time to go ahead and put in some new intercooler cores. John asked, are all A6 7.5 timing belts chain or belt? All 3 OTs in general are timing chains, and there's a bunch of them. All right, let's see here. Let me see if I can see how many people are in the chat. We got 23 watching. It is, all right, we're going to go to 9:10. When we get to 9:10, we'll go ahead and do the announcement. And you guys are free to stay in the chat and ask me stuff all you want. I'm doing good. Holiday season's going all right so far. I'm not traveling for Thanksgiving, luckily. I'll be home for Christmas, and then we're traveling the weekend after Christmas to go up and see some family in Virginia, but otherwise I'll be sticking around here, so hopefully not too bad. And Samoa, you can get muted. Oh, even better, put you in timeout. All right. Yes, Jackal is doing Black Friday sale, and they're live now, Christian. You can go on there. They have their coupon code is just Jackal, and basically what it is it gives you their data logging cable. What you're going to need to actually flash your car. You get it for free, which is a $150 value, and that turns out to be, for those of you curious, that turns out to be a little bit cheaper than the switching discount code. So if you're coming from a competitor and you're switching to Jackal, this is actually a better deal for Black Friday. You cannot combine the two. So yeah. Yeah, Dominic, I responded to your comment. You asked about the chocolate milk from your catch can, but I responded to you. You're always going to have that chocolate milk stuff looking stuff in your catch can, because combustion process creates moisture. Your catch can captures all moisture, not just oil vapors. So the moisture from the combustion process mixes with the oil vapors and turns into chocolate milk. So it's totally normal. There you go. E's got the APR throttle body. Do you know if an aftermarket air intake would fit universally? With the aftermarket throttle body from APR, you've got the ultracharger, so that extends out. I don't know anybody other than APR that has one specifically made to fit that, but you can probably do that yourself. I do know that there's some works in process that hopefully in the next few months you might have an option, but I don't want to get ahead of myself on it. All right, one more minute and then we're going to get this drawing going. See here. Fuel additive brand for the C7.5, and how often should you do it? From John. Fuel additives are, you know, they're nice to think about, but truthfully, I'm not sure how much they're actually doing. Maybe one day I can get my buddy who is the North American director of Rovo Motor Oils, and they have a bunch of additives, and he knows people that know that, and we can talk about it in depth. Maybe Matt will chime in here if he uses one, but I don't really use one. I know BG makes good products, but I don't use a fuel additive ever. Ping, there's not an engine mount video, just because I did mine really early into owning the car before I was really doing videos, so I do not have one. Eventually, at some point, I will do one, but right now I've got brand new engine mounts in there, so it'll probably be a while. Denny, I will work on that. And Steven, you're good, man. Oh yeah, the boiler cap back on a 4OT, I bet that does sound good. Okay guys, it's 9:10. Let's get this drawing out of the way. And like I said, people are more than welcome to hang out afterwards and just sit here and shoot the shit tonight. But so the way we're gonna do this, I'll show you on my computer. Matt has sent me all of the order numbers. So I got these just so you see all of them. And I'll do this drawing right here where you guys can see I'm not doing any funny business, but there are 80 orders. That was the limit of the tickets. So we're gonna pick one. And yeah, here we go. We're gonna just pick a random item. And then we'll wait for Matt to tell us who wins. Okay, the winner is 24,981. So, Matt, let us know who that is. 24,981. Guys, I will answer questions once we figure out who the winner is. Mike Carmen. So is Mike Carmen in the chat? If Mike is in the chat, say something, buddy. Anybody? Mike Carmen, you in here? All right, he might not be in here. But yeah, congratulations to Mike. Dude, that's a heck of a deal. That intake is absolutely stunning. You know, Garage Autosports makes killer intakes. They're absolutely just statement pieces, their artwork, and they sound absolutely amazing. So yeah, congratulations. For those of you that did not win, next week Jackal will be doing round 2, and they're going to be doing a charity for an APR Ultracharger plus an APR intake that is specific for C7s. So this one was for B8 and B8.5s. If Mike has an A6 and he won this one, then he could probably make it work on a C7. But next week, I will say this, the APR Ultracharger pipe is specific to the C7s. It doesn't fit perfectly in a B8, B8.5, but if you still win it and you drive one of those, I'm sure you could sell it to somebody pretty easily. But that'll be next week. Jackal will announce at some point, and you guys could try your luck on that one. But yeah, so I'm going to stick around here for a little bit. If you guys have questions, let me know, and we'll just keep doing this. But heck yeah, man, congratulations to Mike Carmen. All right, let me run back up here and look at some questions. All right, Ping asked about engine flush, engine cleaners to clear up deposits inside the engine and reduce oil consumption. B12 is one that people use a lot. BG makes one. I think Liqui Moly makes one. That's where they do the piston soaks, or they'll put some stuff into the actual oil and you run it for a while and it breaks up the carbon and then you drain it all out. I know a lot of people that use those. I use those on mine. I don't know how good of a job they work, but it's almost like peace of mind. You know, it's not really going to hurt anything. The big thing with those that you need to remember is when you do those, especially the ones that you pour into the engine and it breaks that stuff up. When the engine oil is warm, it suspends all those particles that they've broken up and cleaned up, and you need to drain the oil. Don't put it in there, run it, and then forget to drain the oil, because when it cools off, they'll all solidify again, and that could be really bad. So make sure you do it at the end of an oil change, like an oil life cycle. Do it, break it up, drain it, and drain it from the pan. Don't use a fluid evac tool. Drain it from the bottom of your oil pan to get all that crud out. But I've heard that a lot of people swear by them. I've done them on my engine a few times. It's definitely not going to hurt anything. Does it sound different just to delete the middle or the rear muffler? So Hank's asking about exhaust. So with these cars, exhaust is the worst thing in the world. They sound terrible on the 3OT. It's really hard to get mastered. But Your mid muffler, the OEM mid muffler, controls rasp a lot. Now, if you go test pipes and you delete the resonators on your down pipes, you're still going to get rasp, but that mid muffler does a lot in controlling rasp. So if you delete that and don't put anything else there, you're going to have issues. Your rear mufflers pretty much just change the tone of the exhaust. They don't control rasp at all. That's just going to change how the overall tone of the exhaust sounds. So hopefully that clears it up, but you're going to need something more than just that if you go test pipes and non-resonated mid pipes, because that's just rasp city for sure. All right, Christian Caballero ordered Jackal tune today. You're gonna love it. Jackal's gonna get that intake out to Mike tomorrow. Nathan says he's sleeping. My favorite brand for tires from John. I just use Michelin PSA S4s, you know, the all seasons. They work great for me. I don't have any specific tires for drag race or anything yet. Maybe one day I'll do some of that, but my everyday tire, I live in southeastern North Carolina. I don't have to deal with snow, so I run the PSA S4s all season long. So Jackal's clarifying on the charity event for next week. It's going to be the same thing, $10, and there'll be a limited amount of tickets. Same thing as this one. All right, so Boogeyman's asked about the Merc Racing pipe. And what he's talking about is the inlet pipe that Merc Racing's designed. So basically, when we came out with the PCV relocation system, we came out with this throttle body adapter that you brought your return line to. And if you guys haven't seen what we're talking about, I've got a whole playlist on the PCV relocation series. What we found, though, with these new throttle body kits, like the one from Vast AZ, the one from Garage Autosport, is that when you couple their adapter, because there's no like inlet pipe or anything like that, it's just a plate adapter to your supercharger, and then the throttle body, the larger throttle body fits there. But when we pair that with the throttle body adapter for the return line with the relocation, it ends up pushing the mouth of the throttle body right on top of the timing, the upper timing chain cover, and it's really hard to get an intake silicone pipe on there. It's super tight, and no matter what, it's going to be rubbing, so the engine vibration is eventually going to cut into that silicone. Some people have hammered down the edge of the timing cover, and we didn't like that at all. So I told Jose, I said, we need to come up with something where people with the PCV relocation can do a DIY throttle body kit. And this will also apply to anybody who even just has a stock PCV. So what we've done is we've designed a inlet pipe that's 80 millimeters interior, like the majority all the way through, and it should match to a ported 80 millimeter ported supercharger. But it's going to have a port not only for the PCV relocation return line that you can attach to, but it'll also have a water meth injection port as well. So if you're running water meth, you can put it in there. It'll come with plugs if you're not using those, but then you have it, and it should fit a variety of different throttle bodies. You can come up with your own system, and you can come up with your own intake. On top of that, I'm trying to convince Garage Autosports to come up with a short ram intake to connect to this, a nice, beautiful titanium one that Jose can maybe put a paired package with. So keep an eye out on that in the future, but it is coming. ES, how they enter for next week. Same thing as this one. Jackal will make an announcement on their Facebook page, and you just basically have to buy tickets. They're $10 each, and there's going to be a select amount of tickets, so you can only get a certain amount. So just put on your alerts for Jackal's Facebook page so that you get alerts whenever they make a post. Let's see here. I got to stop right-clicking on this thing. All right, let's see here. Hold on, guys. Somehow I accidentally paused my live stream. Nice. All right, AWE exhaust is great, but lately they've had some issues with the mid muffler starting to fail, but I think it's a lifetime warranty on those. Ping, I do these live streams kind of randomly. I would like to do them more often. It's fun engaging with everybody, and people have really good questions. But yeah, I'll try and do them more often. Top 3 regular maintenance things you do on my car and how often, from John Prescott. That's a good question. Stay on top of your oil changes. Audi says you can go 10,000 miles, and I absolutely just completely disagree with that, especially for you guys that are tuning these and running them aggressively. Don't go over 5,000 miles. Make sure you use a quality synthetic oil like Rova Motor Oil, ROWE. Those guys are great. You can get them through USP Motorsports, and we're about to have some like package links that like I'll be able to send you. That's coming, but you can go there now and find their stuff. 5W40, I do that no more than 5,000 miles. If you've been driving really aggressively during that life cycle, maybe cut it down to like 3,000 to 4,000 miles. So that's definitely one of them. 2, it's kind of a maintenance thing, but constantly, like I monitor my coolant levels, and for me, my divorced reservoir levels. So anything that goes with the engine coolant, I keep a really sharp eye on those levels to make sure that nothing weird's going on. And that's just because this engine is so prone to heat failure or heat related failures. So I do that. Other than that, this thing, is pretty stout as long as you just pay attention to it. I have a CAN sensor and I've had a P3 gauge, but I got something that I constantly monitor my IATs. That's something that you just always want to be cognizant of because that's a really good indication of the overall health of your engine and how your intercooler cores are doing, things like that. But this car is very much one of those cars that you just have to kind of deal with things as they arise. You know, it's reliable as long as you understand what can go wrong. So your typical things, you know, your PCV, water pump thermostat, that's, you know, if you've got a high mileage one and haven't ever had those replaced, I would definitely just go ahead and get those done, knock it all at once. But yeah, basically just oil changes, make sure your filter's clean, make sure you got good tires, make sure that your control arms and everything are good. These things treat you well if you treat them well. All right, Denny asked, roughly how much power gain does a C730T get from high flow cats versus OE exhaust? There's zero difference in power between high flow cats, straight pipe, or OEM exhaust. This isn't like a turbo car where you want to just open up the exhaust and get as much free flow as possible. We get rid of the cats simply because the OEM catalytic converters are so prone to failure. They can either fail by breaking apart and shooting out the back of your exhaust. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is they fail by melting and creating a blockage in your exhaust, which creates massive back pressure, which can damage the valves on your engine and grenade your engine. So that's why most of us go ahead and delete the cats on this system. Yeah, Khalil Rowe, it's spelled R-O-W-E, but we pronounce it Rova. They're a German motor oil. They've been a top German motor oil in Europe for a very, very long time, and they've been in the United States for a little while, but they're really pushing their name here in the past few years. The North American director of Rova Motor Oil used to be a C7 owner. Like, that's how I know him. He was just a Rova rep, and I was in a bunch of group chats with him as you know, when I first started my Instagram channel and YouTube channel. Super awesome guy. Matt knows him really well. You know, he hangs out at a lot of shows. He's an enthusiast first before a businessman, and they're just great products, great company, and I'm really proud to be partners with them with this channel. All right, so music is universal. Any suggestion on an IAT monitor for a Phoenix daily driver? Don't want to cover the vent. If you don't want to put something in the vent, then if you have OBD11 or anything that can do live monitoring, they sell some OBD things that can connect to your phone and do different kind of live monitoring. I suggest OBD11. It's a great thing to leave in your car. Super, super useful. But you can go into live data with OBD11 and some of those, and you can look on your phone. But I'll tell you this, I've had a vent gauge on the left side there of the steering wheel since I've had the car, and I live in Southeast North Carolina, crazy humid, gets really hot. Doesn't bother me. There's still air that comes out the bottom of it, but the majority of my air still comes from the center vents anyways. So I would highly suggest either looking at a P3 gauge or a CAN sensor gauge. They're incredible things. They give you a lot of information, definitely worth that small sacrifice in airflow. Yep, once again, Mike, here, let me see here. Is it Carmen or is it Carman or Carmen? And yeah, Denny, that's Matt. If you see Jackal Motorsports posting, that's Matt from Jackal. Okay, so he asked a really good question. Would 034 camshaft upgrade be worth the $3,500 for power gains? So let me preface this by saying most people know my history with 034. And I'm putting that completely aside. I have you can choose to believe me or not, that's fine, but I'll give you my objective thoughts on the 034 camshaft upgrades. One, there's not a ton of data. Now we're gonna get to some cars running them, but right now there's not a massive amount of data, and I think that 034 themselves say that overall you get a peak wheel horsepower of like 30 extra horsepower with them. And so remember that's peak horsepower, not sustained. Take that for what it is. They're $3,500, and that is expensive, but if you talk to a lot of people that know, like, building custom camshafts, that's not a bad price for what it is, but you have to factor in your install price. If you're not installing it yourself, you're looking at $3,500 for the intake, or for the camshafts, and you're looking at probably another $3,000 in labor, parts, and everything installed. Maybe not $3,000. You're probably looking at, with parts, labor, everything, you're probably looking at another $2,000 on top of that 35. So minimum, more than likely, you're in the $5,000, $5,500 range. At an expensive shop, you might be closer to $7,000. So for me, that puts me really close to a Merc Racing MRA 1900, and you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck out of that without needing the camshafts. Now, having said that, there's two people that I know of running those camshafts other than 034 cars. One is my good friend Mike Soignet, and he's who helped me do my engine swap. And he's dialing in his car. He just installed nitrous oxide on it. He's about to send this thing to the moon, and he's got those. And so we'll see what he's able to do. Now, one thing about his engine is he was one of the first people to buy them, and that was when 034 didn't realize that there were different camshafts for the pre-3.0T, the ones that were in the B8 S4s versus the newer ones, which is what we have in our C7s or the B8.5 S4s. And so he bought them, realized that wasn't going to work because he went to put them in, didn't work out. And so instead of waiting for them to come up with a new one, he actually swapped a B8 engine into it. So his power numbers, I don't know if they'll be different compared to a newer revision 3.0T once he starts getting numbers out, but definitely check him out. His Instagram is at Audi 3.0 work. I've tagged him a bunch and stuff. If you go through my post, I'm about to release my engine removal video, and he's the one that's in there, and I've got links to his stuff in that. That'll be coming out next Sunday. So keep an eye out for that one. That'll be a really cool one. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy seeing that one, but he's going to have crazy rebuild videos, super detailed rebuild videos. He's an awesome, awesome guy. The other person running the 034 camshafts that is actually having data down is Mark Albano, and he's got C7 A6 as well, and he's putting down, so I think he's put down like over 600 wheel horsepower with E85 or E65, but he's running those. And I haven't seen a lot of his data, but I do know that he's trapping speeds that cars without it are not. So it does seem that they're putting in some effort. Is it worth the money? That's going to be up to you guys. Let's see here. Who are the big players in the 3.0T community right now? Is IA still developing a platform or falling off? So Ping asked about the players. We'll talk about the big players. We'll talk about the people being innovative. So we'll separate those two. So in terms of tuning companies, Integrated Engineering is one of my favorite companies in the Volkswagen Audi community in general. They're great guys. I've worked with them before. I was tuned by them before. I've hung out with them at shows. They're some of the nicest people that you'll meet. They're great. Their hardware is incredible. All IE hardware is made in-house. I think they're the only company other than like Garage Autosports, things like that, that are making stuff 100% in-house and testing it in-house. Whereas other big companies like 034 and whatnot outsource their products from other companies. Excuse me. Having said that, when it comes to tuning, they have kind of left the platform. They're focusing on B9s. They did just release an update I saw for, I can't remember, I think it was a 3.0T update. So they're not completely abandoning it, but they're definitely focusing their attention more on newer platforms. APR, same thing. They're focusing on new stuff. So your two main battle houses are Jackal Motorsports and 034. 034 is very much taking their attention to B9s, but they're still working with 3.0Ts, but Jackal is dedicated to the 3.0T, has been since they came in. That's what got them into the, into this newer community. So it's basically between those two, and I'm always going to steer everybody I know to Jackal. Besides my personal issues with 034, Jackal's customer service is top-notch, above and beyond anybody that I've worked with. They're amazing dudes. Once again, another company that's enthusiasts first, businessmen second. They bend over backwards to help people. There's a lot of stuff those guys do in the background that people just don't know about, where they're helping a lot of people. And they are facilitating innovation as well. Example of that, let's talk about Merc Racing. And this is going to start getting into companies that are actually innovating stuff. Merc Racing is probably the #1 company innovating things for the 3.0T. Jose is a dear personal friend of mine, and I could probably call him right now and say, hey, Jose, I got an idea for a part. And he'd be like, all right, let me hear it. And then 6 months from now, we'll have a prototype. That's amazing. And we've come up with some really good stuff. He is always thinking about things and developing stuff. His MRA 1900, the upgraded supercharger, is an absolute monster. And, 034 has a prototype one that they're working on, but Jackal bought one and they created a tune for it. And so I think there's 10 of these MRA 1900s out in the wild. And Jackal, I think, has the only ones that are actually out there running on a completed tune. They're dedicated to those kind of things. So love that they are dedicated to facilitating people who are trying to innovate. They want to work with those people. But yeah, Merc Racing, he worked with me and I said, hey, I want to do a PCV relocation setup. no questions asked, he was on it. We had prototypes, and then almost a year later to the date, we had the complete finished product and installed and everything. That was awesome. We're working on that intake pipe. Jose's working on a couple of other really cool things I don't want to let out of the bag because I don't know if he wants me to talk about it, because I know that everybody will just message him about it, but there's some things like that, and he's always innovating and updating his products, which is amazing. So definitely Merc Racing. After that, you've got Canadian Auto Performance. They're very dedicated to the 3OT community. They're one of our channel partners as well. They've got just awesome exterior parts, but they've got really killer exhaust parts. They've got a whole lot of other stuff, so check them out. Garage Autosports, definitely dedicated to the 3OT platform. They're working on their own custom turbo kit. So definitely check them out. But, you know, they make these beautiful titanium intakes that Jackal auctioned off tonight. They make the throttle body kit, and they're another company too that I know people like myself have been able to reach out and say, hey, we got some custom things that we're doing or some off the wall stuff, and they're all ears to think about it. After that, someone that's kind of newer in the 3OT game, but has been around Audis for a very long time, knows what he's doing, is Alex from AM Tuned. AM Tuned is who built my built motor. The guy's an absolute monster when it comes to these engines. It's all about high horsepower stuff. He wants me to eventually get my car back down to him to do a turbo conversion on it, which I very much want to do when the time is right. But he's breaking into the 3OT community for the supercharged engines as well as the B9 3OTs. So keep an eye out on him for those of you that really want to send your cars to the moon. I'm sure there's some others that I'm forgetting out there, but those are definitely the main ones to check out. Let's see here. Music, you definitely just message me with what things are out of order, and I'll try and steer you in the right direction. If you've got codes you can send to me, then we'll try and get you helped out there. Oh yeah, Jackal brings up JHM. I almost forgot about JM. JHM makes everything in-house as well, including their brake rotors, things like that. JHM is another really good company. And the guys from JHM, once again, very good dudes. So check them out as well. They've been around in the 3OT community for a long time. Let's see here. Did I update my MMI to the aftermarket Android CarPlay and what company? Yeah, I've got a video on that. I don't recommend the company. They're a company called Seacane. Their customer service isn't the greatest. I haven't had any issues with the issue or with the unit, but a lot of people had issues with their customer service and had issues with some of the units they got. So if you're going to spend it, either just go to AliExpress and take your chances, or spend the money and get an RS Nav. They have a really good support customer service system. All right, let me keep scrolling here. Khalil ordered his stage 1 from Jackal. Awesome. The discount, yep, there you go. Simon told you. It's Jackal is the discount code. Pretty easy to remember there. Appreciate it, Denny. Thank you very much. Yeah, Dr. Stein wants Jose to make a Crec version. And for those of you that aren't familiar in the C7 world, the facelift C7s and also some S4s, S5s, outside of North America got an updated version of the 3OT that has multi-port from OEM from factory. There's some differences in it in terms of how things fit. Jose hasn't developed MRA 1900 for the Crec engine yet, but I'm pretty sure he got a hold of an MRA 19, I'm sorry, of a Crec OEM supercharger so that he could start working on fitments for that. So down the road, he's still got to get the first one finalized. Yep, Nick, the announcement is done. Mike Carmen won. I should have probably pinned that at the top. Okay, so he says he's fully stage 2 ECU TCU with the hardware. Is there anything else that I can get more horsepower torque? So it depends on what company when you say stage 2 ECU TCU, because there's stage 2 plus, blah, blah, blah. Full beans when it comes to the OEM supercharger is dual pulley with an aggressive ratio. And when we say aggressive, we're looking for that golden 3.3 pulley ratio. So that's like a 190 millimeter crank pulley with a 57 millimeter supercharger pulley. That with an E40 setup, so you need an ethanol sensor to monitor your E40, and you need an upgraded high pressure fuel pump. So E40, and now working with Jackal, LDOT came up with a low pressure fuel pump system that is going to help with fueling. I don't know if it's required or if it's super beneficial, but definitely run it by him if you want just, to balance your fueling out. Not a requirement as of yet, but E40, ported supercharger, go through the roof by with your cooling. So upgraded heat exchanger, upgraded coolant pump, divorce your system so you can run distilled water, and then water meth injection, doing the speed sauce tune from Jackal. And after that, you're going to start getting into multi-port injection, which, you know, will be a little bit beneficial on the OEM supercharger, but you're paying a good amount of money for that, and you're gonna have to get custom tuning, and it's not just a simple plug and play and tune and done. So that gets into a little bit more treacherous waters there. But without going into MPI, so we'll use that as our cap. Ported supercharger with E40, with all of your supporting mods, especially your cooling mods, you're gonna need it. And then after that, make sure you're investing in your brakes and your suspension, tightening up your suspension, things like that. My primary diagnostic tool from Ping, he's asking me, I use OBD11 for pretty much everything. I don't actually own VCDS. I had one in the past, but I don't actually own one, and I haven't had a need for it yet. And the reason for that is all your major tuners have come out with you know, your ability to data log at home. Even Jackal has it right now. It's not widespread release for everybody. They're going to soon. Isn't that right, Matt? So I've got my OBD11 for diagnosing. I can do live data. I can see all the things I need to see. Now I've got OBD11 Pro, and I've got their older version. So I got grandfathered in, which is a little bit better than the newest one, but it's still worth having. It sits in my door card. I have it with me at all times. Something happens on the car I'm driving, I've got that. It's worth every penny for sure. So that's what I would suggest. Let's see here. Oh, nice, Dr. Stein, nice. Flow Wash, send me a message, man. You're not gonna be diagnosing in the live chat tonight. Yeah, the C7 A6 headlights look like trash compared to the C7.5 A6 headlights look like trash compared to the C7 LED headlights. Now the C7 HID headlights are pretty plain, but the C7 LED headlights, they're absolutely just, that's gonna go down as one of the most unique looking headlights that Audi's ever put out. And then you couple that with the fact that I got my buddy Tyler Hayes, aka Void Carbon, to do a fully custom carbon fiber setup on my headlights. Oh man, they're stunningly gorgeous. Now, when it comes to A7s and S7s, I do prefer the facelifted look of those headlights prior, you know, compared to the pre-facelift S7 A7s. I don't like the LED lines on those. That's not my favorite. Okay, cool. Jackal's beta flasher is out. That should have the data logger, and their data logger is awesome. It's the best one I've seen. It's super thorough. You can pick and choose your parameters. It's fantastic. They did a good job with that one. Ping, you can reach me on my Instagram channel. You can message my Facebook, but the best one's probably Instagram. Let's see here. So Chapo talks about a 1 second clink off a cold start. So I think you're talking about chain rattle. Let me know if I'm wrong. But a common thing on these is when the car's been sitting and it's cold, when you start your car, you can hear your timing chains rattle for 1 to 2 seconds. If it's less than 2 seconds, that's completely normal and within spec. It's basically you just have to build up oil pressure and then that goes away. Now, if it lasts for much longer than 2 seconds or you hear chain rattle on warm starts, you need to be squirreling away money to get a timing chain job done, because that means your tensioners are completely maxed, it's loose, you're gonna have issues, and definitely don't be driving aggressive if you're hearing that. Now, a way that you can get rid of that 1 to 2 second normal one is when you do your PCV, you can, when you're changing out your PCV or doing a relocation, there's two caps underneath it, and you can swap those caps out with these tiny little check valves. I need to finish my DIY video on those. I mean, it's a super simple thing. You literally just pop those caps off, put these things in, and torque them down. But they're these tiny little check valves that what they do is, as your engine's like flowing oil, they just open up. And when the oil flow stops, they close. And what happens is when you turn off your car, when they close, they keep oil in the heads. So when you go to start your car, you don't get that chain rattle because there's already oil there. It worked beautifully. I put them in my car and immediately that 1 to 2 second chain rattle went away. Now, if you let your car sit for like 5 days, eventually the oil will seep past those and drain and you'll have that chain rattle again. But like I said, if it's normal day-to-day things, it should do the trick. My Instagram is Audi C7 owners, just like a YouTube channel, all one word, Audi C7 owners. Flow wash, rattle on downshifts could be anything from a heat shield being loose to exhaust being loose, probably maybe your flex pipes on your mid pipes failing. So yeah, there's a whole lot of things that could be a rattle. You need to probably get a shop to look at it. John asked my number one favorite Audi model and engine of all times. Oh, that's hard, man. I truly do love the C7. Like, I don't know if it's my favorite. It definitely isn't my favorite. But I'll say this about the C7, especially the A6. It's a timeless body style. It's gorgeous. It looks aggressive but luxurious. It's got the same platform, you know, the heart and suspension as the S4. It's not as nimble as much, but I'll say this, with the right mods, they'll hang with almost anything. This, you know, my car's got pretty much every suspension mod done to it, and I stuck with an RS3 through the tail of the Dragon without problems. The only thing that really got me was my buddy Craig's newer RS3, and he's on air ride, and he's just a madman, and that thing ripped through the mountains. But yeah, no, they're awesome. The 30T is going to go down as one of the best engines Audi's ever put in. I feel like it's the modern 27T with just how much support and love for that engine there is. But my favorite, that's a hard one, man. There's so many good ones. I'm a huge sucker for a B5 S4, just because when I got into the Volkswagen Audi game, that was in 2003, and so those were brand new, and it was a car that I wanted, couldn't afford as a college kid. I got to see it all the shows, so I'm super partial to those. The Avants, the C7.5 RS6, which is also always going to be an Avant. We didn't get them here. That's a dream car. I don't think my channel will ever get to it, but if I ever got, you know, to massive channel status, my dream would be, like, you know, however many years it takes for them to be able to be imported over here, but do a whole vlog on going overseas to purchase a C7.5 RS6 and ship it back to the United States. Will never happen, but, you know, I can dream. But yeah, no, the B5 S4, definitely partial to C7s. I love the RS3s. Those things are just amazing. Yeah, I don't know. There's too much. That's like naming your favorite song. You know, there's just too many things. Yeah, so Ping asked if I like any other cars or platforms that aren't Audis. So it's my first Audi I've ever had. Prior to this, I've had, I think, 6 or 7 Volkswagens. I had a B5 Passat. I had a Mark IV 20th anniversary GTI. I had 3 Mark V GTIs, which my Mark V GTI, I built one that was like show car and, you know, upgraded turbo, air ride, whole 9 yards. I loved that thing. It's one of my favorite cars I've ever had. For a short stint, owned a Mark II Golf. I had a E46 BMW 330 for a short stint. My family has always had Volkswagen, so my mom has had a Mark V Jetta. She had a B5.5 Passat. She's had 2 or 3 Tiguans. My wife has an Atlas now, a brand new 2024 Atlas. So huge, obviously, Volkswagen Audi fan. Certain BMWs I really like. Love an E46 M3. Some of the other M3s, you know, and other M cars I really like. Not a huge fan of Mercedes. There's a couple that I like. JDM. I'm not, like, I mean, I appreciate a very clean JDM car. If money was an issue, I would go out and buy something that I could K24 swap, just so I could put one of Merc Racing's superchargers on that thing, just to hear it scream up to 9,000 RPMs. I don't know. If it's a nice car, I'm gonna like it. You know, it's one of those things that I enjoy anything that moves on wheels. I ride motorcycles. Love a good motorcycle. I don't have one right now, unfortunately, but I've ridden since I was 16. So yeah, just kind of a gearhead in general. But I definitely am partial to German. All right, so Flo asks, who do I use for suspension, or do I have multiple brands? So yeah, it's kind of a hodgepodge. So right now the car is lowered on H&R Sport Springs, which is like the perfect drop for like a daily. I truly don't believe that you need coilovers on the C7 unless you're like really tracking or aggressively driving your car on a frequent basis, and you need to dial that in. For your normal daily driver, the H&R Sport Spring drop is going to be perfect. My car had the sport suspension, so I had the sport shocks. They wore out eventually, and I upgraded those with the Bilstein, what is it, the B9 or the B8, whichever ones. I got a video on those. Amazing. Like, I put those on like 2 weeks before going to the tail of the Dragon, and I cannot tell you how much of a lifesaver that was having those on there. That's such a great combo. After that, I've got Eurocode drivetrain inserts. So for the transmission mount, the upper and lower differential mounts, I've got inserts in there to stiffen those up. One of the best bangs for your buck, and I highly suggest everyone gets one of these, is the JXB Performance drive shaft carrier upgrade. That's going to stiffen up, or one's going to protect your drive shaft, especially for those of you going for high horsepower stuff, if you have a 4OT or not. But it helps you put that power to the wheels without having all that slop in the drivetrain. coupled with a stiffened everything else. That was one of the best bangs for the bucks and one of the most noticeable things I've done to this car. Highly suggest everyone does that. I've got 034 street density engine mounts. One of them broke. I found that out when I pulled my engine out. One of them was split in half. The other one was good. So I had lifetime warranty replacement on that through FCP Euro. So got a replacement one of those, put that in when the engine was out. So those are still in there. I have 034 control arms, upper and lower. They're all shot. They actually lasted less than the OEM ones did. And, you know, granted, I drive my car very aggressively, but yeah, so they're all shot. They offer a lifetime warranty. I'm not sure if they would do that for me or not, but I bought them before they offered the lifetime warranty, so I don't even know if it would apply anyways. So I need to replace those. TGK Motorsport is coming out with monoball replacement bushings for your control arms. I'm really excited about that. He just announced a pre-order for the first one for the thrust arm, I believe. So if you're curious about that, check that out. Let's see, after that, I've got S6, C7 S6 brake calipers on there and brake rotors. I've got Eurocode sway bars front and rear, and they're end links in the back. I've got OEM end links up front. I need to change those out as well. So yeah, I've got a pretty stiffened suspension and driveline or drivetrain, and it makes a big difference and not crazy vibration or anything. Yeah, it's got more vibration than it did OEM, but nothing that bothers me at all. 12 PK, I need to have that. I don't know where I would put it. I don't have a list I can just point you to, but maybe that'll be a video I do, and you know, that'll be something I can send to people. Adjustable camper control arms necessary or replace with OEM. If you plan on getting air ride, or you for some reason have a purpose that you want to adjust your have the camber controlled control arms, definitely get them. But if it's just a daily driver, I don't think it's super necessary. So just kind of user preference. All right, Denny says, after my stage 2 tune, I got some back and forth jerk from flooring it in first gear. Is it possible wheel hop on cold tires? Some suggested transmission related. So yeah, if you're in first gear and you're flooring it, depending on what kind of shape your tires are in, you could get some wheel hop. But the ZF8 is notoriously jerky from first to second gear, as well as second to first gear if you're downshifting. Now, let me preface this. You should never manually downshift from second to first gear until you come to a complete stop or almost there. It will damage your ZF8. I have a whole video on that from when I broke my ZF8 because I was downshifting from second to first gear at like 5,500 RPMs ref matching. So that eventually just like destroyed the clutch. So don't do that. Learn from me. Don't be stupid. But first to second gear is notoriously clunky. Those drivetrain inserts and the JXB drive shaft carrier upgrade help a lot, and even a TCU tune will help, but it'll never fully get rid of it. But if you're talking about just like full on, like during acceleration, having a constant hop, it could be either tires, you know, it could potentially be wheel hop, but it could also be a symptom of maybe worn engine mounts or control arms. And keep in mind, guys, your engine mounts and control arms go hand in hand. If you've got worn engine mounts, they will eventually wear out your control arms. Yeah, ping. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it, but it shouldn't be a very expensive job. If you have a shop, do it. The battery I have is just, I think I just got a OEM battery for the last time I changed it. There's some lightweight batteries, but they're dumb expensive, so I've never messed with it. Just make sure it's, what is it, like an AGM battery. It's got to be a specific one for the amount of draw, and you've got to make sure that you code the car when you put it in there so it knows that it has a new battery in there. Upgrading the sound system, that is out of my expertise. I know a lot of people will replace their OEM subwoofer with something better, and that's good enough for them, but that's definitely not my forte. If you search the Facebook group, there's some people that talk about it. Ghost asked about the install process for lowering springs. I actually have a DIY video on that, so you can check it out. I show some tips and tricks that work for me. I don't think it's terrible. The front is fairly simple. Now, if it's the first time you do it, you're going to be frustrated. You know, go ahead and plan on spending a weekend. Like, carve out a weekend just in case. You can do it in a day, but carve out a weekend just to take your time. The rears can be tricky if you don't have the right tools, but like I said, I got an install video on that for lowering springs, so check it out. Like I said, guys, I'm here all night if you want to just keep asking questions. come up with something. I'm gonna go grab something to drink. Be right back. Trying to think if there's anything cool in here to show you guys. Maybe next week, since someone's going to be winning a C7 specific product from Jackal, maybe I'll toss this in there. We'll see if it comes up. Hopefully you guys can see that. There's a delay on my video here. Oh, Boogeyman, it's actually inside my house. It's sitting on one of the shelves in my house. I do need to get that out here. Flo, I wish I could, but I don't have my keys on me. They're in my house. I got a detached garage. I'm not walking out there, so another time. Let's see here. John, I probably won't ever do a video on seriously detailing my car. I used to be a detailer, but there's so many videos on YouTube about detailing a car. Just go check out one of those. There's a ton. I wouldn't do it justice. I'll eventually have a video showing some cool detail products because there's a really great company called Jackal Norfolk, and we got some of their products when we went to Helen, and I need to have something of theirs in a video soon. I just hadn't had the time yet, but their products are amazing. A lot of people hadn't heard of them. They're the truth though, man. Well, all the C7 guys, Tyler Kurtz from TGK, Travis Carpenter, we were all using them and we were blown away at how good it worked. So check those guys out, Jackal Norfolk. They're awesome guys and awesome products. Okay, yeah, so Ping asked about carbon cleaning, if it negatively affects the injectors. One of the shops I called said carbon residue can end up clogging fuel injectors, but it's direct injected. So that doesn't make any sense because when you're carbon cleaning, you're not letting anything go into the combustion chamber. So the only way stuff could build up on your injectors is if you're getting a lot of oil going into there, like from like a bad piston ring or something like that. Maybe that could do it, but even my car, which blew a piston ring on 5, when I pulled the injector, there wasn't crazy buildup or residue on it. So no, when you do carbon cleaning, basically what they should be doing is the cylinder they're working on, they should rotate the crank till the valves are fully seated. Nothing can go into the combustion chamber. They should clean it out, vac it out. If they're walnut blasting, however that is, make sure it's fully clean and then move on to the next one. So nothing from a carbon clean should be getting into the combustion chamber. Now, maybe he's talking about a piston soak where you fill your combustion chamber with something like B12, let it soak overnight. That loosens up carbon built up on your piston rings. And then when you vac all that out, you drain your oil, you put new oil in. When you start it up, maybe stuff that broke up gets into the combustion chamber and gets onto the injector, but I've never really heard of that ever happening. This is something the dealerships do all the time, but Alex Mayhem-Toon talked about how there have been some cases with doing that with a piston soak that it breaks off a large piece of carbon, like a big chunk that can get wedged on the side of the cylinder wall and cause some marring. I think that's a rare thing, but it is a potential hazard. Yeah, I haven't watched any of the practices, but I heard Lewis Hamilton's doing good tonight, Matt. We'll see how that race pans out. I need my boy Max to go ahead and seal the championship this weekend. All right, John wants a walk around of the car. I can do that. Let me get my phone here. So, I can't zoom out on the live stream. But yeah, so here's the car in the garage, dirty as hell. Got my $430 shipped Momo wheels. That was 2 years ago. They did a Black Friday sale. Those are 20 by 10 ET55, which does not fit. So I have 20 mil spacers up front and I think 17 mil spacers in the back. Eventually I am going to get a set of wheels from my buddy Tyler, Void Carbon, because he makes incredibly beautiful, gorgeous wheels. But for now, those will do. Got the Canadian Auto Performance RS6 front bumper. Right now I've got a set of stock headlights on here because Tyler's doing some work to my fancy custom lights. I've got
a C7.5 8-bar black optics grill because the Can Auto Performance RS6 grill, or I'm sorry, RX6 bumper is a facelift design that fits on the pre-facelift car. We go over here, got my dash cam, got my air freshener, got my radar detector, got my Can Auto carbon fiber mirrors. I got the Can Auto carbon fiber duckbill high kick spoiler. Now this is their V1 version, sitting over here in a box. I think it's this one. I've got their upgraded version. Yeah, it's hiding in there. I got to put that on the car. I'll show you over here. I've got a carbon fiber lip for the RS bumper sitting in here that I need to put on the car. I just don't want to destroy it. Got some of my Halloween decorations up there. That's all random OEM stuff, random parts, disassembled supercharger, just all sorts of fun stuff. Spare supercharger casing. Can't really show you too much on the back just because of the door, but we'll go back here. Got the Euro plate, got the OEM S6 rear diffuser with my janky exhaust, which hopefully I'll be getting an updated exhaust here soon, courtesy of Mr. Barrington helping me out. But yeah, here's the car, guys, and all its dirty ass glory. And yeah, it does have the adaptive cruise control. Let me put this back up here so I can talk to you guys. Give me 1 second. I gotta walk around the car. All right, let's see here. Yeah, Matt's a big Lewis Hamilton win. I think he just wants to win out of nostalgia. Let me scroll back up here real quick. All right, so Derek Gordon asked, if your ZF8 has 90,000 miles on it and the trans has never been changed, would you recommend doing a service? Absolutely. There's this myth that if you go too long, you're going to do damage by changing your fluid if you haven't ever had it done. ZF recommends on stock vehicles changing it once every 75,000 miles. Lifetime says it's, or I'm sorry, Audi says it's lifetime, and that don't do that. So yeah, if it's stock vehicle and you're driving normally once every 75,000 miles, with tuned vehicles being driven aggressively once every 40,000 miles, like a DSG. Once again, Rovo Motor Oils, they make DSG, or they make ATF fluid. And in fact, a lot of you probably have Rova ATF fluid because they were the OE supplier for ZF Lifeguard, because ZF doesn't make ATF fluid. So they were getting it from Rova for a very long time. So a lot of you probably already have it in your car. So yeah, definitely do an ATF service. Yes, injectors are a maintenance item. That's a good question, Ping. I would say change them at every 100,000 miles. Injectors, they never go bad in a way that it's like, oh, time to do an injector and you can get away with it. They go bad by either just dumping fuel into your combustion chamber and you hydrolock it, which that happened to my friend's S5, or they fail by not putting oil or not putting fuel into the combustion chamber, and then you have a detonation, or like it runs too hot and you have a failure there. You send your cylinder to the moon there. So yes, every 100,000 miles, and make sure they're OEM injectors. So Continental makes the OEM ones. You can get them from a few different places. They're, no matter what, they're pricey, but definitely change your injectors. Some people have asked in the past, is it okay to send your injectors off to get them cleaned and bench tested? And hit or miss, but some of the people that really know these cars say don't do that. Just change them out. There's no way to get them back to a brand new spec, and you just don't want to risk it, because if they go bad, it's an engine. All right, so Ping asked, says, it looks like you have the adaptive cruise control. Have you ever had to diagnose or fix it, and what was the process of doing so? Yes, I've had multiple issues with it. One of them, it got disabled randomly, and what it was, you know how if you've got the adaptive cruise control or you've got the Audi Presense. So Audi Presense is a system where it detects that you're going to run into someone or someone's going to hit you, and it'll brake the car on its own. If you let that happen 3 times inside of a certain time period, it'll disable the Presense and the adaptive cruise control. And you have to go into OBD11 or VCDS, and you have to find where that code is stored, and you have to clear it in order to regain it. I did lose my cruise control for a while, and that was because my windshield got hit by a damn hawk and it broke the camera. And if that camera that's in the mirror gets damaged or stops working, then your cruise control will not work. There's a couple of things that can be out of alignment, and you have to get an alignment done for your radar system. So there's a bunch of different things that could potentially lead to it not working. Let's see here. All right, Boogeyman asked, I'm going to self-port the supercharger. Maybe one day I'll take that empty casing and do it just for fun, but I'm not rushing to do it, because once we get my engine, get the cam adjusters replaced, I'm going to be putting the MRA 1900 back on it to test with the built engine. So I have no need to worry about a ported supercharger right now. So that'll be the next step. Basically, for those of you that don't know, built engine got put in, was running really well. Then I started hearing this noise near the heads, near the timing chains. It's not the tensioners, because I don't hear it on cold start or on idle. It's only when I give it a gas. And the only thing I didn't replace back there were the cam adjusters. And it sounds like they're just not getting, it sounds like they're failing in a way that they're not pressurizing correctly. It's one of those things that was an oversight on my behalf, didn't even think about it. And so it is what it is. Luckily, I've got the car set up where I can change those in the car, like with the engine in the car. I don't know how to do it, so my buddy Mike Swanday, Audi 3.0 work, he's going to come help me whenever he gets a moment in his incredibly busy life. Dude is a saint, man. He loves to help when he can. I'm incredibly grateful that he is willing to do that. So we'll have a video for that when that time comes. But after that, and it's all buttoned up, we do the base testing to make sure everything's going good. We'll start to push it on the OEM supercharger, and then we'll get the MRN 1800 on here and test. And then when that's all done, hopefully I'll have enough money saved up to send this thing back down to Alex with AM Tune to do the turbo conversion. So Flo asked about porting. What does porting do to the supercharger? So basically everything on this engine is about air getting crammed into the combustion chamber. And the more air you can feed into it, and the smoother you can get it in there, the better it's going to work. So porting is the process of basically removing material from the inside of your supercharger casing to allow it to fill more air and compress more air into the combustion chamber. People can have done it at home, but I would highly suggest sending it. I recommend Matt from Vast AZ getting one of his ported superchargers. Those are the ones to go with right now. They're absolutely incredible. There's other companies out there though. There's Jokers and a few others, but Vast AZ is basically the go-to when it comes to supercharger porting. Check out his website. He'll break it down for you a lot, and you can see his car is an absolute maniac. That thing's running impressive times to be just on a supercharger or a ported OEM supercharger. Yeah, Homey 911, the same reverse LED should work on your C7A7. You just might want to go on a website and verify that they're the same bulb size, but it should be really similar to how I removed them in my A6. You should be able to watch that video and figure out how to do it on yours. John asked if I'm a former mechanic. No, absolutely not. I've just tinkered around on my Volkswagens and stuff. I bought my first Volkswagen in 2003. And just too poor to constantly pay someone to do all of my work. So that's how I learned. And, you know, I just love wrenching on my car. It's fun. You know, obviously you find the limits of your ability, and you do have to get a shop to do it, and, you know, just keep working at it. And so all my tools, almost every single tool that's car related is a shit, I need this special tool, and go out and buy that one tool, you know, things like that. But no, it's literally just studying the internet forums of old and watching YouTube videos. And that's why I made my YouTube video, because there's nothing specific to C7s. And I was like, all right, I can do something to give back and help some other people. So no formal mechanic training whatsoever. That's why I mess shit up a lot. Paying, yeah, if you've got a camera calibration code, then it sounds like if you get it calibrated, you should be good. Those things can get knocked out of whack pretty easily. 911, appreciate you, man. Thank you. Denny, I don't have a video talking about fuel injector related issues. If you're approaching 100,000 miles, I would just say set aside some money and buy those and go ahead and knock that out. At 100,000 miles, if you haven't done your thermostat, your water pump, your PCV, and your injectors, it'll be expensive in parts. You could do it yourself. It's time consuming and a little tedious, but not difficult. But take your time. It's definitely a job you can do in your garage if you've got the right tools. If my videos don't help you, FCP Euro has a lot of really great DIY videos. But at 100,000 miles, if all those haven't been done, I would think about just slowly buying those, putting those parts away, and getting ready to do all that stuff, because you have to remove everything except for your PCV to get to your injectors. But if you're getting to your injectors, you're right there. It's just 2 more steps to remove the PCV. And at 100,000 miles, I would definitely do it. Yeah, and make sure you guys, when you replace your PCV, make sure you also replace that breather valve. It's the line that goes from the back of the PCV, goes out the back of the supercharger and up and connects to your intake. And there's a little check valve there. It's a fresh air inlet valve, and so it's pulling air from the intake into the PCV, but not allowing it to come back into the intake. If that goes bad, even if you have a brand new PCV, it'll still show that you have a bad PCV. It'll be the same exact code if you don't replace that valve. A lot of times people, I bet a lot of people replace the PCV that was probably fine and just that valve is bad, but it's one of those things you don't know until you get there and replace it. So just replace them both at the same time. I think Jackal did release a crackle tune, maybe not for the C7, but nobody should be running crackle tunes. That is garbage. John, you can do a lot more, I promise you. For coils, Ping asked for coils. I think the OEM coils have been made by Elder. They've been made by Denso, I think, or whatever that is. So I buy whoever the OE supplier is. That's who I get them from. I don't buy the OEMs from the factory. I definitely save a few bucks and buy the OE supplier, not just some random knockoff. The actual company that supplies them to Audi, because Audi. Keep in mind, guys, Audi doesn't make any parts for the engine. They're all outsourced. They just put the Audi stamp on them. Yeah, I think right now my car has Denso because I think they're the OE supplier right now, and they've been working great, no issues. Nice filming. While I have you guys all here, if you do like the channel and you do want to support it, a lot of people have asked if they could like PayPal me, stuff like that, and I don't do that, but the channel does have a subscribe option where you can become a channel member, and there's 2 tiers, and it's like $3 and $5 a month. And that would be awesome because that's like the more people that do that, the more money I can squirrel away towards that turbo conversion. There's some perks there. Eventually, I will be doing some giveaways that'll be members only. I'm just waiting to get a few more members in there because I think I only have like 10, maybe 8. So I'm trying to build that up a little bit. I will be doing members only giveaways in the future. Like I've got this OBD11 that I plan on giving away to one of the members giveaways, but I'm just holding on to it till I have more than a handful of people in there. So if that interests you, that's just, that's the cost of a Starbucks coffee a month. If you want to support the channel, we'd appreciate that. Get back to the questions. And by the way, if you get a crackle tune and you have OEM catalytic converters, don't. You're going to destroy them. So if you do choose to go crackle, make sure you've got test pipes on there. Ping asks about spark plugs. If you're getting, my default answer to this is talk to your tuner. Jackal will point you in the direction. They'll tell you what spark plugs you need to get and what gap you need to have them at. Always consult your tuner for what they suggest. BKR 8IEX and 9EX are definitely some of the most popular ones, but ask your tuner first just to be safe. Yeah, Eric, nice. That custom intake, man, it's the shit, dude. I love it. I miss the sound of that because I've got a different setup right now with the inlet pipe that I have on there, but I miss the sound of that one, man. And it's so simple to do and it's so cheap. Yeah, there's not a heat shield, but heat shields are just cosmetic on these. They don't do anything for IATs. I would like to have figured out a way to secure it from its, so it's not moving so much, but it never detracted from anything on the car. But yeah, it's such an easy DIY intake. Don't forget, guys, Matt Barrington from Jackal is in the chat, so feel free to ask him questions too. Make his little fingers tight. Hey, thanks, John. Appreciate that, dude. Eric, air filter sucks. I don't really have any filter or feelings one way or another. If you live in a really dusty environment, it's probably a good idea. I know some guys run them and it doesn't affect really, performance at all. If I was going for like record-setting runs, I'd probably pull it off. But yeah, if you live in a dry area that's got a lot of particles that can kick up to extend the life of your air filter, definitely not a bad idea. Ping, are you on Facebook? Because if you're on Facebook, you'll see that Matt never sleeps. He's answering questions 24/7 on Facebook. But overall, email is probably the best option. Tough, if you're asking about my car, right now I haven't been able to push it. I don't know if you're in the chat for me talking about the cam adjusters. I haven't been able to push it because of the cam adjuster issue. I don't want to push the car with bad cam adjusters because those control the variable timing with the camshafts. Once we get that, we're going full send, but otherwise it's been driving great. It feels fantastic, no hiccups, no issues, no burning oil, no nothing. It's wonderful. I've got some other issues with the car. I need to replace my brake rotors. Those are pretty much on their last legs. My control arms are all shot, so I got to replace those. That's creating a very vibrating kind of a ride right now. That's very annoying. And then, yeah, a couple other little things to tighten up here. But overall, with the engine, it's doing great. Super, super happy with it. I missed the car. Not driving it for 6-8 months, however long I didn't have it. That was torture. Yeah, no, I need to watch it. That's the one thing. If you look at my videos, people give me crap all the time for not keeping it clean, like especially interior. If I have an interior video, without fail, I got like 4 or 5 people talk about how dirty my car is. And yeah, I get it, but I drive my stuff. And I detailed professionally for 5-6 years. And I feel like it's like I did it for so long. I'm like, I just don't care. I detail it before shows, but I drive my car, so it gets used. The paint's not in the best condition. It's got chips, rock chips. Eventually I'll vinyl wrap it, and that'll just make it a lot easier to keep clean. But yeah, my attention's focused elsewhere, but it does need a good cleaning. It's just now it's winter and it's cold and I don't want to get wet. Boogeyman asked about the second air duct hidden behind a fog light grill to feed extra air to the intake. Yeah, I know that Josh Marshall has done that. I know that JM has done that, and it's forcing air into the filter is always going to be a good thing. Once again, intakes do not affect IATs, so don't make that. A lot of people confuse that with getting fresh air from outside, lowering your IATs. It won't happen. It'll just force fresh air directly into the filter, which just helps bring that fresh air into the supercharger. Just getting that kind of I don't know what the word is, pressure vortices, whatever you want to call it. Getting that fresh air definitely helps because, as it is, when you have the filter in there, that's why you don't want to get a filter that's too big. If it takes up that whole space, air can't circulate around the filter to where it's pulling in air from all 360 degrees around it. So you want to have an appropriately sized filter, and the ram air is coming in and hitting one side. So if you can get air coming up and hitting the other, it's just going to help overall. That stuff asked what horsepower number I'm hoping to be around. With the built engine on an OEM supercharger, I expect to lose horsepower. We lowered the compression, so instead of a 10-to-1 compression ratio, it's a 9.5-to-1. Not a super drop, big drop. It's a half a point. So technically, that will, in theory, lower my horsepower. Now, granted, it's going to run better than a 120,000 mile worn-out 3OT. When we get the MRA 1900 on it, we are definitely, once all said and done, I would hope to be able to do MPI, the MRI 1900, and really push it, hopefully, at least 600 wheel, if not with the built engine, maybe a little bit more, maybe a 650 wheel would be amazing. And then eventually, if we ever do get the turbo conversion, I think we would be aiming for 700 wheel, and that would be limited by the OEM not studs, because I wasn't able to use the studs because they broke. But yeah, my brain is shot today. Whatever's keeping the head from lifting, the bolts, the OEM head bolts. There we go. I tried to do the Wagner studs to go that route, but one of those broke. And that'll be in part of my engine rebuild videos. I'll go into that, but it was not an issue with Alex torquing them incorrect or anything. He put them in, torqued them to spec, and thank God he did that at the end of the day. He didn't put the camshafts or anything back in. He finished those, left the heads open. He put a piece of plastic over it. He left. He came back the next day. Plastic was on the ground, and half of one of the studs was on the ground. It had snapped and flown out of the engine. And we sent it off to Wagner, and props to Wagner. They did a full inspection and got back to me, and they showed they put it under a microscope and showed that there's a tiny spot of rust that was invisible to the naked eye. You would not have seen it holding in the hand. There's a tiny spot of rust that compromised the stud, and that's what caused it to fail. So we've got OEM head bolts in there, and that would be the limiting factor when it comes to really throwing horsepower at this engine. So if it ever goes turbo, we would be looking, I think, around 700, 750. Yeah, we still live, Mad Scientist? What are you doing? Flo, I wish, man. No, I'm not. I'm over in North Carolina, the complete opposite side of the country. I like my guns too much to live in California. Eric, what do you mean by how do I radio it? Explain that question for me and I'll get back to you. Oh yeah, dude, a Jackal wrap would be dope. I would love to do a wrap that incorporates all my main sponsors. That would be sick. Something along the side of the car that shows Jackal, Merc Racing, Rova, Can Auto, all the people that helped my car get to where it's at now. I definitely would love to represent them. Yeah, Patrick Ferg, Audi A6 with 100,000 miles and dual pulley. I'd do that all day long as long as the maintenance good. I'd buy the car, I'd run it through. If you don't know enough about it to do it yourself, take it to a reputable shop that's not just a Volkswagen Audi shop, someone who's intimately familiar with the 3OT and the common problems, and have them go through it. At 100,000 miles, things I would be really paying attention to are engine mounts, control arms, PCV, thermostat, water pump, intercooler cores, and injectors. But otherwise, 100,000 miles on these engines that are well kept is young. The only thing that you might not know about is how good the previous owners were with oil changes, and if they weren't great with it, they could have carbon buildup in piston rings. So before you buy it, see if they'll let you get it compression tested. If it has good compression, then I would say go for it, and go for the dual pulley for sure. Subs ask about not getting replacement Wagner bolts. They offered to give me replacement head studs, but I just couldn't trust it. Having one snap, and then when I talked about it, I had a lot of other people reach out to me and told me that they had similar failures. In good conscience, I just couldn't bring myself to put those into the car. ARP doesn't make a kit specific for this engine, but I think AM Tuned is trying to pressure them into doing it. We can get them to make a custom set, but instead of it being $500, it would be $1,200. Plus, I need to get my engine back on the road, so we are under a little bit of a time constraint too. Plus, on a daily driver, 700 wheel horsepower, if it ever comes to that, that'll be plenty for me. All right, Ping asked about Rova versus Liqui Moly. Which one's better? I believe Rova is a higher quality engine oil than Liqui Moly because of things that have been explained to me. And Matt, I think Jackal now carries Rova. They ditched Liqui Moly, and now they exclusively distribute Rova and use that for their shop cars. Rova, so for the longest time, it's always been Motul or Liqui Moly, and Motul has always been a higher caliber than Liqui Moly. I would put Rova on par, if not higher, than Motul. Motul is French, Rova is German. They're an OE supplier to a lot of German car manufacturers for fluids. They're sustainably built in how they make all their products. Their facility is state-of-the-art, and it's family-owned. There's a lot of things I can't tell you about that it's information that was told to me in confidence that would absolutely convince you that Rova was a better motor oil than Liqui Moly. What I can tell you is that while Liqui Moly sponsors a ton of race teams, none of those really, really big race teams are using Liqui Moly engine oil. Take that for what it's worth. At least they didn't in the past. I'm not sure about today, but Rova is some of the highest quality stuff you can get. And since it's at the same price point as liquid moly, why not try it? You know, I know a lot of people say, well, I can get liquid moly for FCP Euro and do the lifetime oil changes, you know, like the lifetime oil for free. And I totally get that. Save some money and do what you got to do. But how many of you are really sending it back every time? If you're not doing that, go to USP Motorsports and get 7 liters of Rova 5W40 and give it a shot. John, you weren't here earlier for we actually talked about that. My wheels are weird. I got 20 by 10s, but they're ET55. So I have 20 mil spacers in the rear. I'm sorry, 20 mil spacers in the front and 17 millimeter spacers in the rear because of my janky setup. When I was on OEM wheels, I just had that flipped. I had the 20 mil spacers in the back and I had the 17 mil spacers in the front on my OEM 20-inch wheels. Let's see here. Eric, I love the C. My C-Cane has been flawless. It's worked beautifully. However, having said that, I had multiple people tell me that they got their C-Cane radio units that were in Chinese and they couldn't get it off, or that something wasn't working. And when they tried to get C-Cane to help them, they were just no help at all. So, you know, if you get one and it works, great, you'll love it. If it doesn't work, you might have problems. So just good luck. Maybe, Mad Scientist, you might be onto something. Maybe we can get them to come up with something. Joe Blow, when you're doing control arms, I mean, honestly, like where they're going to be working, do the control arms, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to go ahead and replace your sway bar end links. Those are probably shot by now. But other than that, there's not too much in there. Make sure they check your brake rotors, your brake pads, you know, inspect all your other suspension, driveline stuff, that kind of thing while they're underneath there. But in terms of like working on other things, there's not too much else in there to work on. If you got sway bars, that'll be a good time to put in new sway bars. Wait, Matt, are you gonna fly Flow out to your house to wrap your car? That'd be dope. Jason, what's up, buddy? My really good friend Jason Thompson's in the chat. He's one of my oldest Volkswagen Audi friends. He's got a Jason? Do you have a Mark 8 Golf R now? Yeah, you got a Mark 8, right? He's been a Volkswagen dude forever. I met him at a gas station on the way to a car show in Georgia. Been best buds ever since, man. All right, guys. Any more questions? Bring them on. I'm here till you guys get done, get tired of me. Like I said, if anybody missed it, next Sunday, so not this coming Sunday, but next Sunday, I'll be releasing my engine removal video that I did with Audi 3.0 work. If you are a channel member on the tier for being able to see videos early, I'll probably have that released for you guys this Sunday. So you'll have a week heads up to be able to watch that. It's a pretty good guide on removing the 3OT. We kept the video like under 20 minutes, and basically what we do is we go around and we show you what to remove and things like that, and point out specific, like, you know, things like that. It's not one of those like DIYs that's like, here, turn this bolt. It's like, we're going to remove this pipe, this pipe, this pipe, this hose, you need to do this. There's a detailed DIY from Audi 3.0 work where he really goes in detail. He has the actual schematics and everything on it. So you can use both of those if you ever have to remove it. We show removing the engine by using a lift with a actual table to bring the engine down. But Mike has removed it with a lift, without a lift. He's done it in his driveway. I think he's removed the 3OT between my car and his car 4 times. Dude is a madman. If injectors are doing okay, would injector cleaner prolong their life in your opinion? To be honest, I don't know. It might be snake oil. It might not be. I've heard some people say that injector cleaner will damage injectors. I have no idea. I've used it once, didn't notice any difference in fuel mileage or anything like that. So I would just say, you know, make sure you're using good top tier oil, or sorry, top tier gasoline, and sticking with a good 93 and just letting them run. Vera none eventually, yes. We're going to do testing with the MRI 1900 from Merc Racing. We're done with that. I'll send that back to Merc Racing and hopefully have money put away that I can send my car back down to AM tuned so he can do a turbo conversion on the car. That is the long-term plan. So it's just not cheap. So it's not going to be an immediate. All right, so my boosted German fleet. He said he's got a best friend who just got a 2015 SQ5, which has a 300T supercharged, replaced the whole cooling system, cores, thermostat, etc. Keeps losing cabin heat, and occasional full throttle misfire. Any ideas before we pull the heads? That sounds like there's air in the system that you guys didn't get, that you guys didn't bleed the engine loop coolant system properly. That would be the only reason I can think of not getting cabin heat. Unless something's just jacked up with the thermostat maybe. But so what I would suggest is draining the coolant completely and then getting a vac tool. Make sure that you've got the cabin heat turned on to full blast, but with the fans off. That'll open up your heater core, and doing a excuse me, doing a vac fill to ensure that you've got that done correctly. In terms of the misfire, I've got a video on diagnosing a misfire, check that out. But it could be plugs, coil packs, intercooler cores. After that, you start to get into more serious things. You're talking injectors or a compromised issue with your cylinder, like a piston ring failure or something like that. There are some other random things. Like I had misfire one time. It was because my intake, the silicone coupler that attached to the throttle body, wasn't perfectly on. So it was pulling in air, like unmetered air at the throttle body, and it was causing, it would just come up as a misfire. I eventually figured that out. But yeah, so typically though, it's plugs, either old and bad or not gapped correctly. Coil packs, old, bad, whatever. Intercooler cores leaking. And then after that, bad injector or a much more serious issue. So good luck. So subs ask about turbo versus like an upgraded supercharger. We don't know the limit of the MRI 1900 yet. We know that Jackal has put down right at 600 wheel horsepower on a stock engine, and they're still working on that tune, you know, fine tuning it. That's with MPI. So it stands to reason that with a built engine, hopefully we can get a little bit more out of it maybe, but we don't know. They're playing around with different pulley sizes now to go a little bit more aggressive. So while we know for certain 600 wheel horsepower with an MRI 1900 is easily attainable with the right supporting mods, the top of it, we truly don't know. You know, you might see 700 wheel horsepower out of it eventually. The good thing about the MRI 1900 and the supercharger, and I would miss this if I got rid of a supercharger, is that it's not like 600 horsepower, wheel horsepower that starts here and you eventually get to 600 wheel horsepower. The 600 wheel horsepower on the MRI 1900 is you're at 600 wheel horsepower throughout the entire rev band. So you get there quickly and it's sustained. It's an absolute monster. Having ridden in the Jackal SQ5, it's an absolute blast, man. So that is amazing. The turbo conversion, you're looking at easily 700 wheel horsepower and well beyond, basically whatever you can handle, you know, and definitely want to have a built engine if you're going to go turbo. You know, do your main studs, head studs. Those will be limiting factors, things like that. Now, if you want specific details on that, Matt Barrington from Jackal will be able to lead you more in a more detailed explanation. And Alex from AM Tuned, he'll be able to tell you everything you want to know. If you ever plan on doing that or really want to push these cars, I would definitely talk to Alex with AM Tuned and get a built motor from him. The dude is a Audi engine wizard, man. There were so many things that he talked about throughout the build process that just I never even thought of, were not anything that would have ever been on my radar, but they were absolutely crucial. He is a wealth of knowledge and super, super nice guy. So if that's ever something you want to get into, that's who I would send you to. Eric, man, you're late to the conversation, but yes, we talked about this. I was a Volkswagen guy since 2003. I had like, I think 7 Volkswagens. Let's count them out real quick. B5 Passat, went from that to a Mark V GTI, I left that and I went to a Dodge Ram truck for a little bit, went back to a Mark V GTI. Went from that to a Mark IV 20th anniversary GTI, a Mullet Yellow. Had a Mark II Golf for a short stint. Then I went back to another Mark V GTI. Had a BMW, an E46 330 in there. My wife has a 2024 Atlas. Those are the two cars we have, the Audi and the Atlas. My mom and dad have had Volkswagens forever. She had a B5.5 Passat wagon. She had a Mark V Jetta. She's had 2 Tiguan's, I think, maybe 3 now. I don't know. Yeah, she had one. She had one of the original ones, and then she had 2 of the newer ones, not the brand new ones, but she had 2 of the other ones. So big time Volkswagen Audi family. Yeah, boosted German fleet. Yeah, I'm not sure, man. Without seeing it, that's hard to figure out. If they truly think that, you know, the head lifted or you have a head gasket that's busted, make sure they do a leak down test to confirm. No, I was never a Mark 6 GTI guy, Jason. Never will I ever own a Mark 6. Those things are trash. Mark 5, and I know people hate on Mark 5s, that's fine. I get why they hate them, but Mark 6s were trash. Yeah, that always surprises me when I find out, like the first time I found out that Jackal came from Subarus before they got into Audis. But their story is kind of similar to like Jose's. They were Subaru guys, and I think they bought an SQ5 for like a wife or something, and then they realized the platform was there and that, you know, it was a fun platform. It's kind of like Jose from Merc Racing. He's a Honda guy, and he picked up a B8.5 S4 as a daily, you know, a nice car, and then he got into, he's like, oh, I can help them with this. I can make a heat exchanger, and boom, now he's, you know, one of the biggest names in the 300T platform. The highest mileage C7 or 30T, I've seen like multiple 30Ts over 200,000 miles. I've seen one at 250,000 miles, and I've seen one at 300,000 miles. That's crazy. But you know, we're at the point though, these engines are pretty old now, well over 10 years for most of them, and they're still holding up strong at, you know, 120 to 150,000 miles. I mean, my engine blew up at 160,000 miles after abusing the shit out of it forever, and then doing beta testing, throwing 30 PSI at the engine from 1700 RPMs all the way through a 3rd gear pull, which wasn't the best plan of action, but I digress. That's right. I forgot you got the B6S4, and then you got the SKQ5 with the timing chains. That's right. And for those of you that don't know, Matt has an absolute monster of a B6S4. It's an AM-tuned built B6S4 that has a turbo conversion on it. Thing's an absolute monster. Nice visuals. That's awesome, dude. Make sure you post that in the Facebook groups. People would love to see that. All right, guys. Any other questions? Let me know. Like I said, I'll stay here as long as you guys have questions, but otherwise, it's getting cold in this garage. As a reminder, for anybody who missed the raffle earlier, Mike Carmen won, and for those of you that did not win but want to try your hand at the winning something else, next week, Jackal will sometime next week announce another charity raffle. $10 a ticket. There'll only be so many available. They're going to be raffling off a APR Ultracharger throttle body kit with the intake to go with it. So in APR prices, that's what, like $2,000 in your firstborn son. So that's a pretty good deal if you win that one. And I think that we're going to do another live stream to announce that one. So definitely keep your ears out for that. Make sure you follow their Facebook page. Have the alerts turned on for their posts so you don't miss it, because I think these tickets went pretty quick. Sub 7, yeah, on the engine, yeah, definitely. It's basically a brand new engine. There's a couple parts that are, you know, reused on it, but for all the parts that really matter, it's basically a brand new engine. Yeah, 1BRAD 007, you'll get away with the OEM coolant pump. What I would say, the order of cooling mods, heat exchanger first, the 40T from Merc Racing is definitely the best. Your next best bang for your buck is going to be divorcing the supercharger loop. So isolating that supercharger loop and being able to run distilled water in it is going to get your next best cooling effects. And then after that, upgrading the coolant pump will help. Not only it'll prevent your ITs from rising as quickly, it'll be marginal, but it really helps in recovery. Once you're done, it helps flow that coolant back through and cool things down really quickly. Jason, not yet. I'm at the hands of my buddy who knows how to do the work. I don't have the tools or the knowledge to do it. It'll be the first time I've ever messed with it. So I just got to wait for our schedules to line up so that he can come down here. He lives about 2 hours away, but he's got family that lives down here. So I just got to wait for our schedules to line up so that he can come in here. And once he does get down here, it should just be a day's worth of work and we should be able to knock it out. All right, guys. I think, well, hold on, one more question here. Ping asked if I have any other hobbies besides cars. Yeah, I got a ton of hobbies. I swear I have ADHD. Really big into firearms. I have my entire life. I am a use of lethal force instructor. I used to be a North Carolina concealed handgun permit instructor. Big into firearms. I've got a 7-year-old kid, so anything that he's into, I'm into. My wife and I love concerts, love live music. I play drums. I've played drums since I was 7 years old. I've been in multiple bands, really into like metalcore for the most part, but I listen to almost everything. So live music's a big one. Enjoy travel, love to go camping. Trying to think. Like I said, I have many hobbies that I love to delve into, but not really a master of any. Yeah, but the main ones, definitely car, drums, firearms. Those are the top ones. I was pretty good at photography for a long time, but don't really mess around with that too much anymore. So, yep. Sub 7, ideal engine coolant temperature. So if you've got a 2013 or newer C7, you can enable lap timer with OBD11. It'll actually show you oil temperature as well, which is a good one. But coolant temperature, it's been a while since I've monitored it. If I recall, during the summer, it should sit somewhere around 203 to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about normal. That's just like cruising on highway 60 miles an hour or so. Obviously, if you're being aggressive, it'll get up there. But I think it was like 203 to 205, 207, somewhere around there if I recall correctly. Somebody else might chime in with a different number. I don't do Spotify, but I've got YouTube music and I've got a bunch of playlists for that. But here, I'll write some bands in the chat and you can go check these dudes out. All these guys are awesome. Oop, didn't mean to send that early, but there's one. Silent Planet is amazing. Trying to think of some guys off the top of my head now. I feel like I'm on the spot here. Oh yeah. There you go. Start with those guys. Oh yeah, and Jason is definitely on the same level as I am when it comes to music taste. But check out Silent Planet, Vinova, Eminence, Architects, Protest Hero, Aviana. You'll enjoy those. Jason, Eminence is coming to Norfolk on April 1st, and I think the night before that they'll be in Charlotte on March 31st. So if I think we're gonna go to the one in Charlotte because I got to work the next day, but gonna go get my violin core on. No problem, Sub. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on this one and sticking around with me after the drawing. I appreciate it. Once again, thanks to Jackal and Garage Autosports for doing the raffle for a good cause. If I'm not mistaken, I think the proceeds from this one go to St. Jude's Hospital, which is awesome. Yeah, Jason, I've got to make sure I can get off work because Charlotte's 3 hours away. I would do the one in Virginia and the one in Richmond because I much prefer the Norva, but I got to work, and so I'd have to take off multiple days of work, whereas the one in Charlotte, I can go, it's a Sunday, so I can go up there and potentially drive back afterwards, which would just be brutal, but I could at least just take one day off and get back home. So I'll let you know. But it's Eminence and Landmarks.
All right, guys, everybody have a great weekend. Thanksgiving's coming up. If you're traveling, be safe. Stick around and pay attention to Jackal for the next giveaway, or charity raffle, I should say. And like I said, next Sunday, I will be releasing the engine removal guide. And then after that, I'll have the videos on actually swapping parts over to the AM Tune built engine and getting that back into the car. So that'll be some fun stuff, and I'll talk about everything we went through in that. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this evening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next live stream. I gotta walk around, take my happy ass around the car because the tripod's in the way, go all the way over here and end this thing. Oh, wait, Tyler's messaging me. Void Carbon's coming up with some new wheels and they look fancy. All right, guys. Have a good night, y'all.